My job here is to make a very brief introduction about Learning People, who we are as a business, but more importantly, to introduce our guest speaker today, Sophie Wickham. And I'll talk more about Sophie in a minute, but she'll talk you through her journey. But the reason I wanted to raise Sophie's name right from the onset is that we as a business are super focused on our students, and particularly our students' outcomes. And that has always been what we've been formed on the basis of. We now have offices in Dublin, Brighton, Sydney and Christchurch, New Zealand, with 110 people on staff. We've put through somewhere between 25 to 30,000 students. And that is all based on the one premise, which is making sure that our students have the outcomes of which they first set out to achieve when they enrolled on a course with us. We're talking about coding today, and certainly coding and software development or programming are clearly huge areas of demand in the tech space right now. And it is an exciting time for us as an organization who help facilitate people's careers into tech. And no more is that obvious than in the coding and software development space. You're going to hear from one of our gurus, Ben. Well, you want to wave, Ben, to us?
Hi, everyone.
Ben is going to talk through some of his experience in terms of enrolling people into courses in coding. And really importantly, we're going to be speaking to Robin, hearing from Robin. Hello, Robin. And Robin heads up our career services piece, which of course is a big part of the proposition. It's great to get a skill set, but really it's equally as important to learn how to position yourself in the job market and to take advantage of the huge opportunities that exist within tech. I've just remembered, I forgot to say we're recording this call, and I do that every time. So just you guys need to be aware of that. And what we do with that recording is we send it out to others who may not have been able to make today's session. I want to just briefly talk around Sophie, back to you, Sophie, and why this is one of my favorite webinars to conduct is because it's great. We do a lot of these sessions where we have industry leaders and thought leaders around coding, but to actually get to hear something from someone who's lived the journey and in Sophie's particular case, she worked with us at Learning People as a career consultant, worked out that she just wanted to do something different and get into software development, and then took one of the courses that we offer and has come through a full journey. So we'll hear more from Sophie shortly. Ben, I think it might be over to you now just to briefly introduce the courses.
Excellent. Thank you, Pat. Hi, everyone. My name is Ben. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I am a senior coding specialist here at Learning People. I've been here for almost 9 years, if you can believe that. And I just wanted to take a minute today to talk through why coding and why now. It's two big questions that I think are really important for anybody that might be looking at a career change or moving further with a career in tech. Because I think the why coding side of it, hopefully some of you guys have done some research. Some of you have spoken with us before, so you probably know some of this, but coding today is probably one of the smartest things that anybody can do because of the variety that it provides. It's unaffected by COVID. You can learn from home, work from home, you can travel, you can be your own boss, you can work full-time, part-time. So for just about everybody, it's one of those things that you can learn really, really well, and a job that you can do really, really well at completely remotely if need be. And there's always been a huge demand for coders. The demand has been increasing year on year, usually by several percent every year it goes up. But the why now of it all is that in the last 12 months, we've actually seen an increase in demand for coders by 15.5%. That's a monstrous big leap in demand in an area that was already highly in demand. So that's kind of the why coding and why now of it all. And in particular, I wanted to talk around a course that is going to help you to achieve everything that you need, because some of you may know already, that if you're really considering a new career in IT, in tech, particularly around coding, you've got to have a few things: the skills, qualification ideally, and a great portfolio, all of which you'll get from our full stack web development program. Some of you may know about that already. If you don't engage with us, you'll see contact details at the end of the webinar to reach out, talk with us about that course. Maybe another course is right for you, we'll talk about that too, but that seems to be the course that seems to be hitting all the right buttons for everybody at the moment. And I'll talk with you a little bit more at the end around questions as well. But that's it from me for now, and I'll talk to you more later. Over to Robin in our career services to talk for a minute about that.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
No,
I'm Robin from Career Services, and at Career Services, our sole focus is to support students to become job ready, navigate the job market, and navigate a career change. Myself, I have 5 years experience in the employability sector, with 2.5 years in tech recruitment, recruiting for software developers in Dublin before joining Learning People last year. One of the biggest question that I tend to come across with new students is, now that we're in a global pandemic, what is the likelihood of actually getting a job? The response is that as a software developer, you're actually in a much stronger position than most other industries, and for 2 reasons. One is the ease of remote working. So like Ben was saying, the flexibility was common in the industry pre-pandemic and appears to be the norm for the foreseeable future. This allows you as the job seeker to cast your net wider and discard location as a barrier. The other reason is that the increased demand for software support on both existing services and new services required as a response from the pandemic. So as much as the pandemic has taken lots from us, undoubtedly, it's also created a lot of opportunities. So as the job seeker, what you need to do, you need to be smart and calculate the offers you receive and the companies that you approach. So you need to ask yourself things like, is this a stable industry? Do I see a future for this product? At Career Services, what we can do is we're on hand to help you analyze these opportunities and provide industry-specific, impartial advice and support. We'll take you through a 3-phase process that is tailored to your own desired career path. So whether you be front-end, back-end, or full-stack developer, or whether you wish to be perm, contract, or freelance, you'll work one-to-one with a consultant like myself on how to make yourself stand out against the competition. Because while the job opportunities are broad and vast, the same applies for your competition. If you are solely relying on making online job boards type applications, your journey will take a lot longer. These online job boards, they only represent 30% of the available opportunities in the labour market. And in these instances, you are generally up against 100+ applicants for each role. So at Career Services, we'll guide you on how to utilise multiple different approaches along with job boards. This is the access to the 70% of opportunities in the hidden market that you've been missing. As well, look, there's no one size fits all. So we believe in providing our code students with tailored software engineering specific guidance on things like your CV, your LinkedIn, your networking, how you approach applications, figure out how to spot a good recruiter, helping you with interviews, supporting you with offers, and it's generally tailored one-to-one support all the way up until you start your new role. And that's it from me.
Great. Thanks, Robin. It's really interesting stuff. Sophie, over to you. Soph, I'll let you introduce yourself, and perhaps I've got some questions for you as well, but I'm happy for you to roll as you see fit.
So my name's Sophie. I am a freelance web developer, and I would say about halfway through last year I started my own business called Wickham Web Dev, and yeah, since then I've been working remotely and doing a couple of different things, being freelance. You know, that's the benefit of that, I suppose, is to take on different opportunities. So that's me.
Great. So can you talk to us around your career journey to date and why you chose to change careers into software development?
Cool. So I moved to Brighton when I was 18 and ended up working in a pub as a pub manager. Well, worked my way up to become a pub manager. Then I went to the Learning People, and because I had an interest in the IT industry, so talking to people about their careers in IT. Obviously over time that takes its toll, because there are lots of benefits from that I wanted to look into. So I tried Code Out and loved it. The Learning People helped me out, and I started the full stack developer course, which then turned into me going freelance pretty much straight after, because that was always my goal. So I wasn't looking to go back into another company. I wanted to travel, and not that that's happening at the moment, but the opportunity was there. So that was the goal, really.
So what was it about coding that particularly appealed to you? Because I'm interested to see, to understand if, is there a particular skill set that you had, or was it just a general interest that you thought, I kind of like the way coding hangs together?
It sounds a bit funny, but I think with coding, it seems like this, whole other language that only like the most intelligent people in the world can understand. And I kind of wanted to see whether I would be able to understand that. And once you give it a go, and you're like, actually, it's not as complicated as you once thought.
Yeah.
That's what interested me originally. But I like to, solve problems. I like to create things from scratch. I've always got these new ideas of like, oh, I could create that app, or oh, I could do that. So coding kind of gives you the tools to do that.
Actually, I've heard that from some of our students. There is, it's the fear of the unknown when you get into something like this, and you're like, wow, can I do it? And then it becomes very gratifying as you start to understand and the logic behind languages. And that's kind of what you're speaking to, I think.
Yeah, the gratification is huge. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What's interesting in your journey, which just occurred to me as well, because if you think about that career in hospitality and how you moved through, that's a hugely transferable skill set, isn't it? Because you're talking to people, and if you're at a pub, sometimes you have to have difficult conversations, I suspect. And then when you're out now freelancing in your own business, have you found that those skills have transferred well across into coding?
Definitely. Like, you have to be savvy, because a lot of your community is online. So you can't feel like, I can't get in touch with people that you may never have met before, but they're going to help you with that problem that you've got. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of communicating with people that I haven't known before, and just being confident to go out there and find the projects. I regularly email small businesses and that I don't think their website's that great, and you have got to feel that confidence to do that and make that step.
Actually, that's an interesting angle as well, and probably one I haven't thought hard enough about. The online community of fellow developers and people who are doing exactly the sort of thing that you're doing, has that proved to be really helpful and supportive?
Massively. So online training isn't easy, but when you are learning online, you're learning the essential skill sets that you'll need to build your own business or do coding or be part of a team, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's huge. And I think because it's such a niche area, everyone's always up for helping each other, because there's a huge range of knowledge out there. So yeah, I think that would be every day I'm online on either Slack or Stack Overflow.
Right. I love it. I love it as an industry, that there's a real sense of community around it, to help each other. There's something really, really cool about that. In terms of getting certified in software development, how important was the qualification versus not having a qualification? I guess being just sort of going to present to business to say, look, I can code. Did people look to the qualification as a sense to validate your skills?
Yeah, 100%. It will be on every freelance CV that I send out, and it's mentioned on my website. But for me personally, it was about me having the confidence to say I am a web developer. I don't think I would have had that confidence to say this is what I do now without a certification behind me. Mm-hmm. Like anything, when you're kind of moving into a new area, you want that validation through some kind of quantifiable certification kind of thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm sure it's been very helpful when it comes to the freelance roles. But for me personally, that's where it's had effect.
You mentioned a minute ago, one of the things you said, online learning isn't always easy, and I couldn't agree more. What, in the interest of transparency, what were the challenges around learning in an online environment?
Originally, it was loneliness. Like, it's not an easy thing to learn to code. And like when you're learning anything new, you know, you constantly put this huge amount of pressure on yourself. And if you don't get it right, then you're terrible at what you do. And it's just not true. And I think, like, when it came to my online community, that was the only, as well as the support from the course, brilliant, that's great. But if you don't get involved with people online, you know, you're still going to feel like you're on the back foot. So yeah, it's tough, but 100% essential to kind of work through those issues you have.
Actually, and I think that's a really good point. And I'd say this to any prospective students of whatever particular vertical that they're in, whether it's cybersecurity or networking or coding. There are some hugely exciting opportunities that fall out from completion of them, but there's work involved. This is not, if it was easy, everyone would be jumping in. So it needs to be a really considered decision, very rewarding one, but making sure that you've got support around you with whoever you might enroll in a course with is one thing for sure. But really taking that mindset that this is work, and there are certainly some decisions you need to make in order to dedicate the required amount of time to get to what can be an amazing outcome, as you're proof of, Sophie. What are some of the more exciting projects you've worked on so far in your career as a software developer?
So presently this is exciting to me, it may not be to other people, but I create like elements that other people can use. So say you're a really small business and you do use Squarespace or WordPress, then it's not customizable and you need to learn code to do that. So I'm doing lots of mini passion projects at the moment where I'm creating elements that they can plug into their site. So they'd buy the code off my e-commerce site, and they're essentially buying, you know, a lifetime license to the code I've written. And I'm loving that at the moment because it's just different plugins, and every day is like a whole different project. So
that's amazing. That's so entrepreneurial as well.
Cover all bases, Pat. Cover all bases.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What do you think? What's the advice you'd give to people who are at the start of their journey? What were the things that you wish you'd known, if you like, before stepping in?
Full on, don't take yourself seriously. Like, it's a serious subject and there's a serious amount to learn, but just, I took myself really seriously. I put this huge amount of pressure on me to be an expert in an area that takes years to be an expert in. Like, you're never gonna be an expert within a couple of months, but if you keep on chugging on and learning new things, you will get there. And I think I wouldn't change the way I did it. I would change the way I looked at myself and just give myself a break, basically.
Yeah. Well, you have done phenomenally well. So you should be proud of yourself. Great outcomes. Yeah. And so what's the next 12 months look like for you? Do you intend to continue to freelance? And is that kind of your vision?
Absolutely. So I want to build the e-commerce site, maybe even move on to templates and carry on with my custom web developments. We've got a van, so we've got this amazing internet set up. So I want to run the business from the van, but I'm obviously waiting for COVID and restrictions and whatnot. And overall, like, I'm looking into animation. There's so many areas of code that I would like to just test out. So it's not completely clear, my future, but I think that's because there's so many directions you could go. So I'm just going to keep on, really.
Actually, you know why? And that sounds amazing, by the way. I love the idea of jumping in a van and driving around. Brilliant. But the reason I suspect that you're able to not be too concerned about which direction it's going to go in is because you've got a skill set that you know is hugely valuable. And that's powerful, isn't it? So yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
I'm conscious of time, so we've got about 10 minutes left, and we've got some questions from students. And some of them are probably, I'll choose who I think they're better answered by. And we've got one probably for you, Soph. Well, you've spoken to it actually. What are the advantages of working as a freelance web developer? I suspect we've kind of crossed that one off in terms of the freedom and travel.
That's my plus point. Everyone's different though, but that's me, yeah.
Here's a good one from Sam. Are you earning more than you did before?
Oh, for me, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. We don't need exact numbers.
I was looking for Sam.
Yeah. From Sam, sorry, from Sam, sorry. Yeah.
All right. I would say no, not quite.
Mm.
I plan to earn a hell of a lot more than I did before, but being only 8 months into the business, I can't really expect that. But
Yeah.
on my sales forecast, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, love it. Well, for Ben, or might be Sophie again, but what are the best languages to start learning? That's from Holly.
I can answer that. So I would say HTML, CSS, and JavaScript would probably be a really smart place to get started. HTML being one of the easier coding languages to get to grips with. So HTML really is where you're going to learn whether or not you want to be a coder, I think.
Got it. Sophie, you got any views on that one?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Like when it comes, especially a company-based role, JavaScript is hugely in demand and it's a really cool language. So I'd really hone down on that one.
Yeah, so actually, this is a question for you. So you mentioned, going down the company route versus freelance. Were you ever attracted to the idea of applying for companies as a software developer?
Yeah, 100%. I actually started to, when I was starting the business, it was a bit of a, I'm not good enough to start my own business problem. And I stopped because I wanted to stick to what I wanted to do, which was my own business and to travel. But it was, looking at the salaries.
Yeah, because it occurred to me, we always talk about the number of applications that are jobs that are available for software development, but then there's this whole other subset of people who just want to become developers, freelance developers, and that's a choice. It's about having choice, isn't it? Got one for Robin from Saskia. I have a background in science, but now I want to transition into web development. Will my science background go against me in the future when applying for web development jobs?
Definitely not. No, I could say with like clear confidence, definitely not. So what you do there, and we'll work with you to help do this, but you just focus in your CV once you're at that point of focusing on your transferable skills. And there's actually a sort of hidden advantage in the fact that you have a science background. So you would then actually be more attractive to science-focused organizations because you've got the business knowledge, that, which then makes it's going to be a lot easier for you to solve problems, which is your job as a developer, so there's actually an advantage there because there's a clear sector that you can target and be of huge value as opposed to somebody that they take as a junior developer from another industry or no background whatsoever. So it seems like a good path.
It's a good illustration of the transferable skills into a career in software development. And the one case that comes to mind for me was I met one of our students in Manchester at this 12 months, about a bit more than 12 months ago, and he was a scaffolder, and then he became a software developer. But actually, what he was able to illustrate was the logic, and it worked with me, the logic between putting scaffolding up, because it's not always straightforward. And the employer that got him in the end said, we like the fact that you have to look at problems and solve them logically, which kind of makes sense in coding software development.
Absolutely, that's perfect. Yeah. Makes so much sense.
Yeah, and he was absolutely delighted because he's got this job in software development, and he was out of the weather, was his big thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Ben, this is one for you, I think. This is from Luke. Am I too old to start a career in code? I've worked in retail for the past 15 years. This probably speaks towards this transferable skill stuff, but looking to find a more secure future and unsure if coding is for me. That's a good question, actually. How do you know if coding is for you?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. I get this question all the time. Let's break it down a little bit. Number one, are you too old to code? I'd say no. If you're willing to learn, then you're not too old. On the employment side of things, if maybe some employers might be looking for younger candidates, some might be looking for more senior candidates. So these days, it's really important that you can do the job. And I haven't seen employers recently that really care too much about age, gender, or otherwise, just so long as you can do the job is the main thing. And that's what your portfolio is going to show. And knowing if you can do it, the way you figure that out is by trying some. For instance, we have a code challenge that most of our students would do before they would get onto any of our coding courses anyways. And that's really where we learn if coding is the right path for you. And we go through it with you. And that's where you learn, is it right for me? But I'd never think that you're too hard. I mean, in your case, you say you've been in retail for 15 years. Let's assume you're 35, 40. Well, you've got 20 years ahead of you. Coding is one of those things that you can get to the top of your game inside of 5 years. So absolutely not. You're not too old to code. Don't ever think that.
Yep. The key takeaways: transferable skills from retail really play out well in a business environment.
In retail, you have to be an effective communicator, which is important across all areas. So yeah, there'll be transferable skills there for sure.
And I guess, Robin, this is probably something that you talk to people about all the time, around the fact that wherever you've come from, you should be able to take those skills that you've learned in that particular role or position into a new role or position. It's never, you never don't learn things that you can translate across into a new industry.
Definitely. Like I deal with this all day long. People say to me, but how can I make my development CV? My background is retail, it's finance, it's this, it's that, but that's it. You're not putting on your day-to-day duties of your last job, right? That's something I'm always telling to people. What we focus on is presenting your transferable skills and your achievements, because what you're trying to sell or what you're trying to show is the impact that you can have as an employee and a reflection of your working style, not what your day-to-day duties were in your last role. What we work with you to present is what you can bring to the table rather than your last job, what that entailed. And so it's about drilling into the specifics of you as a person.
Yeah. And I guess in terms of painting that picture of who we are as people, being able to point towards your portfolio to show the practical experience is super important as well. I know we spoke about qualification, but the portfolio is kind of a lot where it's at, isn't it?
Definitely. Like just thinking about career changing in general, there's a real advantage coming into development because you are able to provide evidence immediately that you can do this before you even do an interview. So it makes that kind of process an awful lot easier in terms of opening doors. And think of people career changing in other industries, they don't have anything tangible usually until they get that experience to show that they can do the job. So there's definitely a huge advantage with the portfolio side of things, definitely.
Got it. Great. We are up for time. Thanks to Learning People, but to you, Soph, particularly to you, because
thank you, Sophie.
It's really inspirational, and it is what we strive to achieve for people. So to hear your story is hugely impressive. So congratulations to you. It's a great story. Ben, I'll let you finish off, but
thank you, Pat. I'd say at this point, if any of you are thinking of a career in coding, the best advice I can give you is to just talk with one of us. You'll see my email address on the screen there, my number. Go ahead and call me, email me, or just go ahead and re-engage with whichever career consultant you've spoken with over here before, and just talk through how it might look and work for you. But that's it from us. Thank you so much for attending, everybody, and we hope to hear from you.